Ja, mal gewagt. Die Zunge. Hm, hm, hm. Yalla day. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you now. Let me see. For
It might. I know it's not you. My sound is on, unless it's the headset.
some reason my video is not working. Give me one sec.
Can you hear me now?
That would make sense. Okay.
What happened
Uh,
on your end?
oh, no. Still can't hear you.
Uh, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you now. I can see you're saying, can you hear me now? And for some reason, my video does not want to. There we go.
Okay, perfect. You can hear now?
Still can't hear you.
What the fuck? Uh,
Maybe, let me see if it's on. Oh, no, no. You know what? It's me. It's me. It's me. I see it.
okay, that's a
Hold
good
on.
way to start the session off. I'm just
There we
joking.
go. I got it now. What is going on, my friend?
Not much. At last we meet.
At last we meet indeed. How you doing today?
Not bad in yourself.
Oh, not too bad. Just picked up my son from his after school program, getting situated and getting a life situated a little bit here. But no, all is well. All is well.
Is
No
this a new
complaints.
apartment?
This is a new apartment. This is
Wait,
indeed.
where do you live
All right.
again?
I
West
guess you
Coast?
can. Yeah, I'm in Seattle.
Seattle, that's right. Okay.
Julius, right, please. Not your time for 5 minutes. Thing. Can you go to the room, son? Give me one sec. Let me
All right, that's fine.
so it don't look
We are
awkward.
having technical difficulties. No, I'm just messing. What can I expect? All right. So I have two funny skits that we're gonna do throughout the time, and it's gonna be a fun record. I'll tell you that. Not Janayad epic, but I have my own, I have my own madness.
I appreciate that, and trust me, we certainly don't need Janayad level epic here by no
I'm
means.
not trying to be epic like him. I mean, he's the one with the monetized YouTube channel at this point. I'm still trying to figure out that formula.
Nah, yeah, he's figuring things out. He's in Bangladesh right now, enjoying life.
Oh, he's on vacation.
Yeah, he is. He is.
All right. So just give me one second because I gotta pull my notes up. All right, open. Hold on. We're gonna save that. And then just give me one second. Notes. No, no, that's not
Yeah, I
it.
know. I was looking into YouTube the last couple days as well. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start a channel.
You should because I've been posting a lot of stuff and I'm gonna start doing a few more I'm going to start doing more solo podcasts in the new month between guests. It's not that it's hard to find guests, it's that everyone's busy. So I'm like, yeah, time to go from Benjamin likes to interview people to every now and then adding a few more solo records a month so they can
That's fair.
get to know me. Anyway,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, I like that.
So let's get this started tonight. All
Let's do
right,
it.
everyone. Welcome to Autism Experience Podcast. I finally did something that I finally have somebody that we can just make a bunch of jokes about the profession. Finally, a recruiter took the challenge and came on my podcast after 4 years of running this. So, Kevin, you are very much appreciated in the world of Autism Experience Podcast and Pick Your Brains podcast. We appreciate you coming out today to take the challenge of being on the show. And let's get Autism Experience Podcast started.
Let's do
So,
it.
who do you help professionally?
Well, it depends. So more lately, I've been well, let me start. I am my title says I am a technical recruiter at Amazon. So, in terms of my day to day, I help out folks that are generally trying to become either product managers or data engineers or business intelligence engineers or business developers at Amazon. Those are usually the roles I help out with. But more recently, I have been I guess you could call it an experiment. I have been, as an Amazon recruiter, I get maybe 15 to 20 messages a day in my LinkedIn inbox of like, hey, here's my resume. Could you help me out? And so, for the longest time, I I found ways to say that I didn't have enough time to do that. And instead, more recently, I've had more of an abundant mindset in saying, you know what? I'm going to pick 4 people. I'm going to give you 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm going to do the best I can to help you navigate, whether it's Amazon or somewhere else with the expertise that I have, and see if I can be effectual in that. And so today was actually the first day where I talked to 3 of those people, and they were really rich experiences. It was good calls with folks trying to help them navigate through Amazon. And so, who do I help out with right now? It's random people that want my help to in any way that I can use my expertise. And then again, in general, it's Amazon candidates.
I might end up being one of those potentially just doing a reach out because I've had some interesting experiences with external recruiters and or like we're talking sourcing agency recruiters. I know I know there's a lot of bad rap given to recruiters, or as you said, technical recruiter roles on the LinkedIn network, especially. You guys get shelled, but you know the real reason why we do that. It's because our frustrations are with sourcing agency recruiters.
Well, I can't. I always say this. Look, I can only speak to myself and what I do and how I show up. I will say that like any role, right? It's not a monolith, right? Whether you're a recruiter, you're a salesperson, you're whatever. I'm sure you could find a reason to be mad at anybody for any reason, but at some
Absolutely.
point, you have to have ownership over what you do. And do I always get it right?
No.
Absolutely not.
And
Um,
that's funny because when I look at most recruiters on LinkedIn and then I looked at you over the last 4 years, the difference that stood out between you wasn't so much. And then we're going to get into a little bit of your personal story where you'll have the platform to discuss that a little bit. A few of the things that I actually admired about you, because you probably remind me of myself, and I would love to ask this question. Were you born in the 80s,
yes, I was born in the 80s, 1986, baby.
1985?
86, baby.
Oh, you're a year after me. Okay, so we're kind of within the same, we're in the same, we're within a
Well,
year.
I'll be 40
Anyway,
in a month.
welcome to the 40s club because I think you were already there thanks to your role. But the one thing I really got to say to you is this. What stood out about you is the fact, oh, I'm actually looking at a recruiter who one actually can laugh at himself, two can actually do skits, and three he just says whatever the hell he wants on the LinkedIn platform, even if it's probably not the nicest thing. Like, oh yeah, I don't have the bandwidth to get back to these 10 recruits today and tell them why they suck.
No, I definitely don't say that.
I know, but you got the joke behind it. The joke was basically saying there are days where I just because you posted this, there are days where I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to follow back. So if you don't fit
oh,
the
for
job
sure.
description,
Yeah.
that's why I didn't call you back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in
And
reality,
honestly, sometimes from the job seeker's perspective, the only thing I do want to say before you get the floor is we just want the feedback sometimes because we know if we don't get it from you guys, we're not going to get it from the hiring manager.
sure. And as much as I can get feedback, I certainly do my best to do that whenever I have the opportunity. That's for sure.
And that is well respected. So I think we're going to start off with when you got out of high school, first and foremost, where were you born?
I was born in Dale City, Virginia, so kind of near Washington D.C.
If I'm not sure if I caught this correctly in one of your posts all the way back, maybe in 2020 or 2021, but did you have a mother from another country or a father from another country?
Yeah, my mother's from the Dominican Republic.
Ah, okay. And where's your dad from?
He's from Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Ah, very interesting. So that's a very interesting mixture right there. Ah, so you're a Virginia boy. So when you went to college, what was your major and what did you kind of anticipate that you wanted to do after college when you got your first job?
So I went to college twice. So when I was younger, my major was like 8 different things. I ended up actually not finishing my first go around. I got to like year 3 and had a come to Jesus moment of like I have no idea what the hell I want to do. So what am I doing?
That
And so I
sounds like a
left.
majority of us because even I didn't finish till 2019.
Yeah, so same. I went back in 2019 as an adult, and I finished with a bachelor's in business administration. From there, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but the thing that I thought I would work best because of my skill set was either sales or recruiting. And so I went to recruiting because I got my first job at Amazon as a recruiting coordinator. That just kind of came natural, and I kind of continued on that path. And and the story progression goes that I hooked up with a gentleman named Adam Posner, helped him out with his consultancy, which made it so that I kind of did all things sales, marketing, recruiting, and wore a lot of hats. So I was able to fulfill a lot of those skill sets that I thought I always had.
That's interesting. So, interestingly enough, I probably had your story too because I stopped. Well, I didn't stop. I had to take a couple years off after 2008, especially when we got hit with the global financial meltdown, which I
Yeah,
think for a lot of us also set back all of us because not all of us could get married. So part of the problem with me was when I got in 2009, I got into Mercy College and I was a business administration and sports management major. Before that, I was at Westchester Community College, which I'm now back at doing two different certifications. The first certification that I got was Intro to Data Science and Machine Learning. The certification I'm doing now is IT Help Desk with CompTIA A. I'm only doing those just to get kind of a more diversified skill set. And it's funny because I'm in a low cost community, and the question was they're still asking me, what do you actually want to do with your life? I'm like, I really want to run a business, but if I'm getting these technical certifications it's because my original major, which was business administration, sports management, I couldn't get hired in. And I ended up in retail for, especially as an adult on the autism spectrum, where you notoriously get pigeonholed. You know, if you do
yeah.
one thing in like low grade retail customer service, they keep you on that track. Which isn't completely fair because it's like, why did I go to college in the first place if I'm in retail?
Well, I think a lot of people end up in that place, right? Where you go to college, you think you're going to do this big bold thing, and then unfortunately, the job market says, "Hold on, bud, you got bills to pay," and that's exactly what happened to me. I had bills to pay, and so did I outset and see myself as a recruiter? Absolutely not. But
But it
when the
was
global financial,
available.
yeah, when the global financial crisis hit, same. I came back to Washington. I went to school in Atlanta. The job market there was absolutely hellish. I remember I remember going to restaurants and being in a line of like 300 people when you actually used to fill out applications with your hand. And
Oh God, we are aging ourselves because
that's
I
okay.
remember that.
So I remember, filling out applications, going to the mall, doing that, and just realizing like, what the hell am I doing? So I ended up coming back here to Seattle, where at least there was a growing tech scene, and that's kind of how I got hooked up with Amazon and became a recruiting coordinator on a contract. And again, kind of just let the bills in hand move the direction of where my life went, but really really challenged myself when I got my degree in business administration, and luckily again, after the recruiting coordinator, I had an epiphany of I want to own my own business. And so luckily that gentleman that I mentioned earlier, Adam Posner, gave me a chance as a recruiter. And through that, I kind of really understood and learned how to grow a business, what it means to be kind of a single operator as he was. And so kind of got my opportunity to really flex my business administration degree that I got in college.
I think that's exactly where my story is similar to yours because I only ended up in entrepreneurship during COVID, only because when I reached a point with retail where nobody would actually hire me after college, and I literally got told by one place which I interviewed with this year, who I worked at for 5 years, which was the Goodwill, which is basically this year, they're like, why do you want to come back and do this role that you did for 5 years? And I was like, I'm familiar with the work. I have more skills now that'll help me adopt and do this job a lot better than, the previous time, which I thought was a reasonably good answer. But what ended up happening is I just ended up getting rejected a week later. And I'm like, so I put 5 years in here during the mid to late 2010s all the way to 2020, and you won't take me back. Why did I bother applying just to
Yeah.
interview with the vice president of the company who's our age?
And again, I mean, it sounds it unfortunately sounds like a very common theme for folks that again, as you said, you lost a lot of years, oftentimes during that financial crisis portion. A lot of opportunities just kind of went by the wayside. A lot of people went back to school, got degrees that they didn't necessarily need, or went and took jobs that they didn't necessarily need to take, and then set themselves on a different path than they probably ever envisioned for themselves.
Well, because I think the problem is if you ask us now what we wanted to do before I tell a little of my entrepreneurial journey with the podcast, the only reason I even started doing this in the first place was very largely because everyone was complaining, where's his tech skills? Where's his tech skills? So I'm like,
Yeah.
what's probably the one only way that I can show everyone the skills that they're missing? Okay, let's do a podcast because that'll showcase everything that I learned from the degree, the concepts, like you said, with your recruitment business. This is the only way we can show what we can actually do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to find ways that you can accentuate those skills because, I mean, and I know this from the experiment I'm running right now, where again, folks have sent messages all up and down LinkedIn between recruiters, hiring managers, and anybody else at a company that they want to talk to, and they can't get a sniff, they can't get a whiff, and so it is. I mean, especially now, it's a different age of hiring. It's a different way that
It's a
folks get
colder
screened.
age of hiring, that's for
For
sure.
sure, for sure. So you have to
I don't think
find.
I've ever seen anything this bad in our short lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough for me to say from the outside because I'm in a role right now, and I'm blessed
And
to have
that's
the role.
okay.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm blessed to have the role. But from a perspective of hearing it from other people, especially people coming out of college right now, where you don't have a defined skill set, and now you have this thing called AI, which I don't necessarily think it's like taking all the jobs, but what it really does really well is if you already have a skill set, it can really help you make efficiencies and really kind of scale things that you already know. Whereas if you don't have a skill set, I think it's going to make it increasingly more difficult for you to kind of have that initial start in within organizations that you once could have easily got in. And so it's a different it's just a different landscape and environment.
Let's officially say, just between us as men, that what you basically just said is my version of corporate America changed the yardstick with AI. AI allows them to basically go and say, we want 5 to 10 years of experience, as I've seen you and Jay joke about that kind of stuff before. It's like, okay, so what you're basically saying is in the recruitment scene, when I'm looking at job descriptions, here's what I'm actually seeing. What you're actually describing is you want a specialist at the entry level with 5 to 10 years of experience, knows all these different quote coding languages, but then doesn't actually use them.
I mean, there's, again, I all, just like all companies, it's not a monolith. There's going
Yeah,
to be differences across the board, right? And so I can only speak to the one I know best, which is Amazon. And there's still a lot of entry level roles. There's still a lot of folks, and there's still a lot of folks that are using their coding skills. There's
yeah.
still, but yes, Are you augmenting that with AI? 100%. But I think that within this job market, it has allowed, as you know, it has allowed organizations to be a little more picky and choosy. And as a result of kind of verticalization, right? Having some expertise in the area, and then again, kind of using AI to augment that and make efficiency so that now you can prototype and move things way faster than you could have before. It's changed the landscape from that perspective, where again, it's going to take just so much more time and training to get somebody that honestly only has a academic skill set rather than somebody that has 3 to 5 years of industry experience with an academic skill set to come in and take that entry level role, because now there's a lot more people in that space that do have that. So it's just made it a lot more difficult for people coming fresh out of college to obtain those things unless you had some internship at an organization already or some entry into there of some
So
sort.
we go back to the internship argument. And the internship argument is while they are valued, they also don't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get hired either. And that's the
For sure.
crux with it nowadays, because it's like what we want to know isn't so much from you, the recruiter, what's going to get us hired. Sometimes I've been fortunate enough to get a straight answer out of the recruiter in past rejections. We want the hiring manager to tell us that, but the hiring manager doesn't want to tell us that because legal's up their butt about why, if they communicate with us, legal's afraid we'll sue the company. It's like, we could do that as job seekers, but then who's got time for that? Because all we're really wanting to know is if, let's say I apply to this role 3 years down the line, what actually will make me a better candidate? So for
Yeah.
example, one story I just had today is on Monday, I had a sourcing agency recruiter contact me for a role that basically was labeled as a project coordinator. And this is where that skit comes in. Hey,
Mm.
Kevin, I would like to ask you a fun question today, if you don't mind.
Let's go.
The question is, why do we have recruiter A over here describing what is a master of data and operations as a project coordinators, good sir?
Yeah. And I've said it a couple times, but again, recruiting is not a monolith. You're going to have your good ones, you're going to have your bad ones. You're going to have the people that are in the know, the people that can articulate themselves better, the people that ask the hiring manager really good questions. The thing about sourcing agencies, and to that point, is there's usually a barrier between them and the people they're actually hiring talent for, which
And they get paid on commission.
would be a whole nother conversation of in itself. And that is also correct. That's right. So they get usually paid on placements. And so they're highly incentivized to make a placement, right? Because you get paid in that way. And so if you now again, that's not to say that everybody is unscrupulous, but in that model, you are going to, just like any commission sales role, right? The likelihood that you are going to get some people that want to get that commission by any means necessary versus the people that would do it in the right way, it's definitely going to be there. So I never doubt or poo-poo anybody's experience in any way. Your experience is your own, and if that's what you face, then hey, I believe it because I've been there myself.
They
It's just
change your resume, or they try to tailor your resume, and then even I just made that comment to you the other day. I'm like, I don't mind that you want to tailor a resume of mine or try to alter it or change it, but what you're doing is now you're watering down my entrepreneurship, which I fell into to show the technical skills off by basically making it less important just to make me look marketable enough. And I have a very funny story. I just emailed today the guy who decided he wanted to sponsor my podcast. We're going to start in September, and
correct.
he's a medium to small business owner of a real estate private equity firm. I applied for his part-time leasing role, and when we spoke about 2 weeks ago, he exactly said the following. I'm more interested in your podcast. I could hire you for leasing, but you have no experience. I would rather you produce the podcast here, with our name. So, as you grow your YouTube channel, we can now get people to, look at our products and services. What they
Yeah,
actually do is they s- they 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 help people finance uh distressed assets.
yeah,
So basically, all the leftover houses in needs of renovation in my area or nationally, they do affordable housing. They do affordable housing products. So I liked the idea because basically this was communicated straight from the CEO. So when I have a recruiter now wanting to change that and take that off, I'm like, dude, no, I'll use this for something else. But we leave my resume the way it is.
yeah. And ultimately, it's your marketable, document, and so totally believe you should have the autonomy to have it be the way you want. I have no disagreement there, and so that you know they are, again, they're incentivized to try to make it work for them and make you marketable in the way that they think is the right way to get you to that job or whatever. But if that doesn't suffice or that doesn't work for you, then that's where you have to have that backbone and be like, yeah, like you said, hey, this is not going to work for me, and here's what I want, and then be very firm about that. And then if they tell you that's not how it's going to work, then you already know, boom, this is not a relationship I want, because ultimately it's going to be a relationship with that usually the sourcing agency. Because if they're like an Aston Carter or a Aerotech,
Axelon.
or right, you're going to get your paycheck through them, right? So you're going to have this relationship with them no matter what. And so I think
Right. And that's the annoying part because it's like there's nothing wrong with the staffing agency placing you there until you actually see that they suggest here's what your wage would be, 22, $23. Then the little
right,
fun part is you find out what it actually is because they take their cut.
correct, that's true,
And that
absolutely,
happened to me with Caremount Medical, which is now Optum or under the United Healthcare umbrella. Back in
yeah.
2021, one of those sourcing firms actually placed me over there. I was told I'd be making 19 an hour, then it ended up actually being 15 because the agency took their cut.
And I mean, with all within reason as well, though, right? There's a reason, because they're simply they're handling a process that the organization is not, and so they should get their cut. And as a
Oh,
candidate,
sure.
you kind of have to know that's what the model is going into it, and you have to be okay with that. And if that is something that makes you mad, well, I think that's an ownership type piece. Not saying necessarily you, but I've
No.
had multiple candidates I've talked to where we've had that same conversation. I'm like, hey, if you want the job, you have to go into it knowing that they're going to get their cut because they are doing the interviewing, they're doing the payroll, they're doing these things that this other organization doesn't want to do because they want to pay this organization to do it for them. So as a result, they kind of that's their business model. That is how they make money. So they have to do it. Not saying that kind of sucks, because again, you are right. You're going to get paid less than if you had gotten that role direct with the company itself.
But there's a trade-off.
But there's a trade-off.
Unfortunately,
That's right.
the regular
It's
company
life.
takes a lot longer.
That's right. Tis life. That's right.
It's
Exactly.
life.
No,
So
and
I could get
exactly.
it quicker with the sourcing agency, but
Exactly.
basically my butt just got waxed because now I'm getting less because the agency takes the cut, but then I have to wait up to potentially a whole year until I get the magical little what's the magical little thing all job seekers hate? The generic rejection
Yes,
email.
yes, yes, yes. You'll be icing your butt more because it got waxed, but hey, at least you'll have a job icing your butt.
Facts. And we just made such a bad sexual joke with that too.
That's as far as I'll be going today. And we're done. No, I'm just joking.
Exactly. Come on. This is basically you being Kevin the wise ass recruiter.
And I have
There's
no
a
problem.
lot of, I bet you have to be very corporate throughout the day, which is basically me just saying there's probably a point where you got to stay in character sometimes when you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, with candidates, no. With candidates, I'm me. And that's why they love me so much. That's why I'm so good at my job. In corporate, when I'm talking to my colleagues, when I'm talking to VPs, when I'm talking to my director, yes, you no matter where you're at in corporate, you have to bring your representative with you at times,
Oh yeah.
because ultimately me being like, yo man, or hey dude, or cursing here and there, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you can bring
Not
your
when
full
we're
self.
dealing with people who are literally two to three decades older than us. They run the
Well, not
workforce.
necessarily. I just, it's a sales thing, right? You have to mirror your
Yeah.
customer. And so if your customer is a director who's no frills, then probably be smart for you, if you really like your job, to, meet them where they're at. Whereas with candidates, you know, to keep it real, honestly, right? They're looking for a job that I have. And so I can kind of show up as myself a little bit more, which allows them to open up and show up as themselves, so that we can kind of have a human to human conversation, which is less of like, hey, here's the job I have, here's the requirements, and I'm like a bullet points of Kevin, versus just kind of freewheeling, because I know my role, I know my jobs, I know my hiring manager, I know what they're looking for. I can speak very clearly about it. When we prep you, I'm not nervous to throw out a curse word here and there. I'm not nervous to throw out a joke here and there. Like, I want to meet you, because ultimately, if you get this role, I want you to be able to be as much of you as possible. And so it's important for me to, as much as I can, show up as the 100% authentic Kevin that you see. And that is going to be somebody that has a hell of a lot of energy. Yes, I'm going to be funny at times. Yes, I'm going to be serious at times. Yes, I'll be articulate at times. It just depends on what the situation holds, and I try to show up and meet that mark.
So podcast Benjamin, or Benjamin you're talking with today, this is true Benjamin. When I did work when I work for people, obviously. I work for corporate. I've worked in home care, I've worked in healthcare. I have to be a different version of myself. Podcast me brings out the real me. When I go to work, obviously I have to act a lot different. Do I like it all the time? Depends on the situation. But
Yeah.
generally, doing something like this, which is, by the way, folks, this is actual networking. Not, I didn't DM him asking him to pick his brains, because apparently every LinkedIn influencer says this is the stupidest thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I can't. I'm not gonna lie.
There's a lot,
I can't stand when somebody says that.
honestly, it's really actually pretty funny between you and me. I didn't even approach you and try to pick your brain at all. And when I've seen people say that, like, and there's a particular career coach, I'm not going to refer to him, but you know which one. He's the one with like the AI related image, who's always saying, "Don't do this. Buy my do exactly what my framework says." It's like, you're talking about my podcast, sir. That was my title one time, and I'm damn proud of that product that I created.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
No. I mean,
there's a lot of generically bad advice that goes around on that platform.
again, I say this a lot, but it's providing context for your content. If you want to pick my brain, that's fine. But what do you want to pick my brain about? And what is the point of me hopping on a call with you if I think you might be there to sell me something that I don't want to be sold? And so,
Oh,
that's why.
that's pitch slapping.
Well, and that's why on LinkedIn, and it just happened today, where a person connected with me, and hey, if you look interesting, I'll connect back. But if the very first message is, hey, I got this product that I want you to try out, then the very next thing I'm doing is removing that connection, because no, thank you. I don't want to be pitched the whole time that we're connections. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there
Oh,
to
but
network.
I get those pitches, and I'm just like, at a certain point, dude, don't come if you're going to come to me. First off, here's the question that you need to be asking. You need to get to know me and ask me what my needs are before you start pitching me. Like, this girl found me today on from YouTube and was trying to pitch me on $999 to nine so she could do my whole YouTube channel for me. I'm like, so why did I just go invest in a really big creator last year where his tuition was 4,500 to learn YouTube and all that, so I could pay you 1,000 just to do the shit for me? It makes absolutely no sense. Like, ask me questions first on what I actually need from you,
Yeah.
more than happy to answer it, or otherwise I will just default to I've been mentored by quite a few people, so I can do all this on my own. I just haven't had the bandwidth or time to implement it just yet, like with YouTube, like the thumbnail stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean that's it, right? There should be a discovery process, and if you are good at your craft, then you would probably know that. And so that also lets me know that you're probably a shitty salesperson anyway. So
Most
why?
people on LinkedIn who are doing career coaching, just between you and me, they're not the best salespeople. I
Oh,
read their content. They
sure.
have good points. They're very
Yeah.
smart and well articulated, but you can tell the content marketing that they're doing. And a lot of it is people from recruiter and HR backgrounds. I actually have a very close friend who was once an Amazon employee when you were there, who's now no longer there. She's on her own. She was technical program manager. She has good, she has good authentic frameworks and content, but at the same time I can tell with her content where it's trying to make a sale. But that
Yeah.
was just because I worked in retail for a long time.
Well, when it comes to career strategy, I'll say this, for all the people that got a job, so then they think they can teach somebody, if you haven't been on the other side of that, if you haven't had hire manager debriefs, if you haven't been in debrief loops, if you haven't done pre-briefs, if you haven't been exposed to different sides of that aisle, then you're probably not gonna. Now, can you get lucky with? Of course, it's at the end of the day, it's a sales pitch, right? So there's some people that, hey, don't apply. We'll send messages to these people. Anybody can do that, though. I think where the insight comes is you understanding what that process looks like, so that you can help manage somebody through that process all the way through. That's what career strategy is, or understanding, again, having had a lot of discussions with candidates in understanding what they want, gives you a perspective that, with all due respect, just because you got a job at Google and Meta and Amazon doesn't mean that you can teach other people how to get jobs at Google, Meta, and Amazon.
Yeah,
Because
you just described about 5 to 6 people who I frequently read their content, and I'm like, you're giving general tips. Most of
correct.
this actually doesn't apply in the real world because the
Yeah.
real world is authentically fucking messy, excuse my language,
Yeah.
and
I
none of
mean,
this actually
human beings are
works.
messy.
Huh?
Human beings are messy.
Thank you. Because I've had several recruiter turned career coaches, one of whom is in Texas and is a close friend of mine. She's married to someone our age. She actually said to me, most of the strategies that all the general people like this are giving out, they don't actually work. You shouldn't DM the recruiter or the hiring manager until last. If you're going to build relationships, it should be done genuinely.
Yeah, I mean, so
Sometimes you have to, but sometimes, like, here's another general one that I really get annoyed with. Oh, you should ask someone on LinkedIn for a referral. Referrals don't actually work that way. Referrals were originally, and I'm sure you've seen this yourself, they're for people who probably played on a sports team together in college or go very far back.
yeah,
Or
referrals don't have the same
power that they used to when we were younger.
impact, right? Because
Impact.
ultimately, you know, you have to be applicable for my role. You have to have the expertise. If maybe for the organization you're at, if you're just a likable person, they'll hire you. But at Amazon, being likable does not get you the job. Being able to explain your stories in a way that relates to the role and what they're looking for, so that they know that they can trust you through this ambiguous problem set, or having the autonomy to handle these problems. I think that's more what it is versus anything else, at least at Amazon.
So let's have a little fun today. I'm going to show you my resume here during the recording, and I'm going to let you take a look at it so that you can kind of get an idea. And I'm going to let you determine if I would qualify for any roles at Amazon, because I think this will be an interesting exercise.
Well, if your question is, can you are you applicable to any roles? I'm sure you are. There's warehouse. No, I'm just joking.
I wouldn't want to work at the Amazon warehouse, honestly. Not after 5 years previously at Goodwill. If I needed to,
I'm
I
messing
needed
with
to.
you. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
I know.
Um,
We had to have fun.
So off the bat, the thing that I always say is it's hard to do this because I'm always doing it against not necessarily a job description, but I'm doing it against my hiring manager intake where I understand what it is they're looking for. Now,
Hmm.
could I give you an idea of yes, you are for sure, but ultimately it matters, what job it is that you're looking for. And so I don't know all the jobs at Amazon. So what
I
I will
haven't
say is,
looked on the site in a while, and maybe afterwards, one of the, within, like a week or so, I might just take a look for the hell of it, and then
yeah.
maybe send you an email, and we'll kind of, discuss it from there if you think it's worth my time with Amazon. Not because I want to get into Amazon. I just want to see, if it's worth it to take the time to do the application, if the skills match. Not just a research thing, but see where my best fit would be, if that makes any level of sense. Because I have technical proficiency.
No, for sure. Um, well, let's start with, are there what type of jobs are you even interested in before I just go willy-nilly and saying, yeah, you'd be good for this.
So, what I'm mainly interested in right now, obviously, because of the data and IT training, is I would be interested in in anything relating to project management. I would be strongly interested in I would be strongly interested in something with data, something, like an analyst role that's not too hard to get into with, too many years of experience. Those are just two lanes. Or I would even be happy to consider, the call center or something like that.
I'm not sure about call centers. I mean, look, off initial read, I think one of the first places that I would think is like a recruiting coordinator. If I'm being brutally honest with you,
You think
going
I
back,
could make a good recruiter?
a recruiting coordinator.
Okay.
So going back to up at the top, I mean, it looks like your last role was scheduling, a lot of scheduling. That's the life of a recruiting coordinator. You're taking, candidates that I have, and you're scheduling out the interview. It's a lot of stakeholder management. So you're
I would
managing,
probably be okay with that, just to let you know.
yeah, you're managing the pipeline of like, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50 interviews. You're reaching out to hiring managers. You're reaching out to their team. You're trying to get them to accept interviews. You're following like a standard operating procedure of guidelines to ensure that there's no defects in the interview process. It's a lot of stakeholder management where you don't own the stakeholder, right? Like you're trying to influence a lot to get people to accept these interviews. But if you've had high volume scheduling, the first thought, especially that, I mean, so that's where I came from, and that's why I started as a recruiting coordinator at Amazon.
That makes
I was
sense, actually.
I was a patient care coordinator at a medical facility, and so it was kind of a natural fit to be a recruiting coordinator, and kind of the workflows really made a lot of sense. And so, again, just from your last two roles, um, I think that makes a hell of a lot of sense. At least again in terms of what I'm thinking from here. Now, obviously, you wouldn't be necessarily flexing much of the technical aspects, but what I say for most people, and some of the advice I literally gave to these candidates today, was they were, not that they had pie in the sky roles, but that might not align today. Maybe you need a little bit more experience. And so oftentimes what happens is, at a place like Amazon, there's a lot of internal mobility. So you get your foot in the door, you build a skill set, and then you make your way over to
Yeah,
project
no,
or
that
program
makes
or
perfect sense. And it's good that you could weigh, what I just did and say, oh, he came from the background I came from. So this is where you'd fit. And that's probably what I was looking for when I decided for us to do this exercise was there are similarities. I mean, you just hit it right there. Yes, I did come from medical scheduling, and did I like the role? Not necessarily, because you had a lot of patients that were kind of yelling in your ear over X, Y, and Z, but does it mean I could do recruiting coordinator? Yeah.
yeah.
I probably could, and it would only change from patients to now I have hiring managers in my ear.
Yeah, and less yelling.
Yeah,
I'll say, especially Amazon, there's a respectful nature because we know how much generally goes into it. Is it, can it be high pressure because again, you don't really own the process for sure. But given that you've already kind of had that role, I could think that that would be a natural fit for you, 100%.
that might actually be something if I can find a role on that I like that I might reach out to you too and let you know that I'm going to be doing the applying, maybe
Yeah.
you want to give me a referral or something like that. But this is kind of how the whole, what I'm showing you in this exercise is what I think a lot of people on LinkedIn really need to understand. It's not just you and me building a relationship through comments. It was now coming to you coming on, you agreeing to coming on the show, us talking. This is the style of networking that most people don't understand, that we probably need to go back to basics with people at some point.
100%. I mean, it's
I wasn't
well,
looking for, like, I came into this today with the expectation that we were just going to be talking, we were going to be shooting the shit, which we did. And then if something came up, like, hey, maybe you want to look at my resume, then we do it that way, if that makes sense. I wasn't coming basically saying, hey, Evan, I'm trying to look to get hired at Amazon because it's my dream company and I dream of looking at working at Amazon. No, I don't dream of working at Amazon, but if there are roles within the company that fit my skill set and it can help me better bootstrap and fund my media desires for the future, and then I can learn along the way, then that accomplishes a huge goal.
Well, and there's a big difference too. Like, let's keep it real. We've kind of known each other on LinkedIn for quite a while now. So
Yeah.
that if I had just met you, hopped on a podcast, and then that came up, I might think that that might have been the angle that you were going for. But we have a different, we actually have somewhat of a relationship in that we've gone back and forth, right? So there is that networking piece there. There's
And
already a
then we have
familiarity.
Jay in the middle, who's a
Right,
close connection of ours. So that makes a lot of this easier in a sense. We love you, Jay.
for sure, for
We love
sure.
you, Jay, and you're going to get tagged in this when things come along, because what we did right here is also, besides the relationship, we just proved something, which is sometimes people at the same age think the same.
Sometimes,
Not all the
sometimes.
time, but sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes that is true. And again, it's ultimately I think there's a rhyme and reason to doing things your way, figuring it out your way, networking your way, communicating with people your way, and finding what works for you. And maybe it's not a
And
podcast, maybe it is messages on LinkedIn, maybe it's through Instagram, maybe it's through, I don't know, but you got to find the place and space that works for you. And again, like we mentioned, the hiring world is dramatically changed. This is generally how a lot of people get the role that they're looking for. They are able to speak to the decision makers kind of more directly versus kind of being just a set of words and relying on the quantum role to hopefully let the stars align. And then all of a sudden your application gets pulled. We call you and everything's good. Well, in most of my roles, you're one of 100. Maybe 10 people I actually reach out to because they have the skill set. But ultimately, you have to be applicable for the role. It's got to align with what my hiring manager is looking for. And if not, then
there's nothing you can do.
nothing I can do. I'm not going to send somebody that doesn't look. I'm not going to send somebody that's like, hey, I would love to be a software development engineer, and they have no tech skills. Like that, I would look like a fool, right? So
Well, yeah, you would 100% get held accountable, and they would look at you
that's
like,
right.
why did
Why
you
the hell would
send that
why did you waste my
person?
time? That's right. And you will get called out for wasting somebody's time for something like that. So at the end of the day, I'm a recruiter with a skill set of my own, and I have to accentuate that up in its own right. And happy to put along people that look like they fit and get on a conversation with people, get on call, see if it matches up. And if it does, then let's go.
Now, here's a great question. The recruiting coordinator, is that actually considered an on-site or is that a remote role?
For Amazon, we are 5 days a week in office, so there are no remote roles.
So yeah, I would have to move out west, right?
Not necessarily. There's recruiting coordinators everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's right, because I live in the New York region and Amazon has the
Yeah, we
offices
got
in New
offices out
York.
there. So it just depends. A lot of recruiting coordinators honestly get put in through contract through, and so I'll tell you, my first role was through Aerotech as a recruiting coordinator. My second role, it was as a recruiter, and it was through a company called Aston Carter. And then I converted that contract into a full time role with Amazon. So I came in both times through the contract route, and then it converted into a full time employee. And I've
That's
been
what
a full time
happened
employee
with
almost
me at
2 years.
Optum. I came in on the temp to perm contract, and it's funny because somebody just tried to pitch me on a contract with Quest today, and I actually finally just said to him, um, as much as I would like to say yes, here's what I would prefer from you instead. Temp to perm right now doesn't necessarily have guarantees in 2026. I would prefer, because I just took something today that even though it's part-time, it's a 12-month, opportunity, direct hire, staff to a property as a concierge,
Yeah,
even if 2 days a week, it's still 2 days a week, for 12 months a year. I use that as a example of I need something like this. 3 months with no promise of a contract, not going to do this anymore. I did
yeah,
that. I did this. I did this 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It made sense at that time, but at
yeah.
this time in our lives, I
Yep.
can't be doing that again. That's gambling.
And that's how I started on a 3 month contract as a recruiting coordinator. Got it converted to a 12 month contract. It ended up not working out after that. Met a gentleman named Adam Posner. Got my first opportunity to be a recruiter. Built that skill set, and then now I'm back at Amazon and converted my contract again to a full time. So yeah, it's different flavors, different times. You got to respond to the environment you're in and figure out what it is you want, and then try your best to make it happen.
Exactly. So now that we've gotten through a good chunk of that today, the I'm on LinkedIn and you're on LinkedIn, but if people in my audience want to find you
Yeah.
besides LinkedIn, what other socials are you on?
I don't do any social, dude. I don't do Instagram. I don't do X. I don't do anything. I do
I really
LinkedIn.
don't blame you because honestly, I think as we've gotten older, since we were the test generation for social media,
Right.
I've gotten more disturbed by it as we've
Me
gotten
too.
older. And where I've gotten disturbed is when a lot of our peers are posting things they probably shouldn't be. And I'm looking at it now, I'm like, there's a large half of our generation who didn't even get married who are like looking at their peers post this stuff. And it's like, come on, guys.
Each their own. I mean, I did do TikTok for a while, but that's because I do my funny videos. So the only other thing I would do is TikTok, but I honestly, I don't scroll. I'm not a scroller. I'm on the most social media I'm on is on LinkedIn, and I do that to connect with other people, and that's it. Otherwise, I
That's
don't
the
need
same
valid.
with me. I've been
Man,
thinking about, expanding the podcast back to Facebook, but and I might just because recently this year I had a really huge opportunity open up to me. I am now a co-founder at Way Out Platforms and CMO. So the founder of this, Enzia, who's from Gen Z, and you'll be seeing more content with this once a week, put out an he put up a description on LinkedIn looking for a co-founder. He wants to expand out of Kenya here to the United States. So it was messaged to the United States. Turns out he actually wants to come here to New York for, his first possible office with investors. So I went into that interview and he was impressed with me because I could talk to him about here's what we're going to do with content because this is my area of expertise after, being on a few different social medias, including LinkedIn for up to 6 years now. I can do this and I can get us positioned because I understand content and podcasting. So this is how we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And he was like, let's make this work together.
that's awesome, man. Congratulations. I think you really have. I've seen you grow. Uh, I've seen you utilize LinkedIn to its big, best ability, which is, as much as content is cool, it's, where you make
Lead
relationships.
generation.
it's in the comments, and so you really expounded on that, used it to its fullest degree, and that's why I'm back on LinkedIn again, and trying to kind of network and figure out where my place in this space is, and yeah, one day at a time, one step in front of the other, right, Benjamin?
Exactly. And the other thing is, besides that opportunity, which showed up this year, something else really big happened this year that, kind of started moving me toward, besides the co-founder. The fact that I think as we go toward the end of the year, with putting that on my resume eventually, I think will open better doors in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, why not? Um, it's a skill set that people are going to want more and more in the age that we're in. At the end of the day, people do use the hell out of social media in different platforms, to each their own. But it's a skill set that, a lot of people will need help with. And at the end of the day, a lot of times people buy audiences, right? As you mentioned, right? The gentleman from the organization was like, hey, maybe not this role, but how about your audience? So if you have an ability to grow and build an audience, then you can monetize that, and you can figure out ways to make that work in this market just as much as being a damn recruiter.
Right. And I'm also in a community, for anyone interested in your community, called Remote Income Community. The two founders of this, Maria Cox and uh, Josh Davis, live in the Dominican Republic. It's a low-cost community with two tiers. Tier one is $19, but it's actually $29.99 a month. Tier two is 80, but in that is like 80, 90, but in that tier you learn things like high like like high ticket sales, real estate acquisitions. In my tier, it's basically they give you a remote job board. So to anyone in your audience who's looking for remote jobs, this is another, you pay the cost I do, but you get a community of people and, reasonable and very good coaching and strategy for the value of not having to pay a lot of these enormous fees that we've seen.
That's awesome. And for anybody that would be interested in that, absolutely.
And when I
And
put up
Benjamin,
this episode, they're going to get a shout out for that. And we're going, your audience can definitely DM me and I'll give them the affiliate link. Another important thing that I think your audience could also benefit from is affiliate marketing.
if I have an audience that's interested in that, then they can go at it.
Exactly. All right. So much appreciated for you coming out. We'll do more
Absolutely.
collaborations in the future. And since it's probably about what time now out on the West Coast?
It's 5 o'clock, and I gotta get my little man out and about. So yeah,
Yep.
it is perfect timing.
All right. Kevin, thank you for coming by. We'll
Hell
see you
yeah.
at the next one.
Thanks, Benjamin.
All right.